There are many thousands of genetic diseases and syndromes, and there's many people who turn up where we don't have a simple explanation. But the interesting thing is that the questions that we face are often remarkably similar. So Selina, tell me, what exactly is it that worries you about your age?
Well, I've heard that as you get older, as you progress in years, so does your chance of giving birth to a Down syndrome child. So I wanted to ask, when is there a particular line that is crossed when the percentage goes up? What the chances are, if there's any way that we can find out before we conceive what the chances are, and also after conceiving, how soon can we find out if that baby has a problem, and if there's anything that we can do before we conceive to lessen the risk of it.
Okay. Have you had any contact with Down syndrome?
To an extent, yes.
Do you know, have you met babies or adults with Down syndrome?
Yeah, one or two. We have a couple of friends who have experienced it, and obviously their lives are made more difficult by it.
Sure.
Quite a lot more difficult by it.
But I'm very desperate to have a baby, no matter what.
I think it's important as well, though, to know that, you know, we're open to the notion of not going through with it if it's not going to be okay.
Well, he says we, but I have to be honest and say that I do have an issue with aborting children. I was raised Catholic, and it's not something that I agree with. I know it would cause problems in my family, and I just really want to have a baby. But obviously,
but at the same time, we don't want it to get to the stage where it's, you know, really going to impact on our lives. I don't think that we, you know, there's still time. I don't think we necessarily have to go through with having a child with an imperfection.
Sure.
I'm sure we can.
Well, let's run through some of the sort of background causes, and then let's come back to talking about some of the difficult issues, which is not uncommon, because this is a very difficult area to deal with. What we heard there were a lot of the typical questions that come into a genetic clinic. Doctors will always be asked what's wrong with me, what the treatment is, what the future holds. That's diagnosis and prognosis and therapy. But in genetic clinics, there are some very specific questions. People want to know, what's the risk of something happening? What's the risk of it happening again? If it does happen again, will it be as bad? And more important in this sort of situation, are there any tests? And that might be a prenatal test, or it might be a predictive test for a late onset disease. Either way, there are lots of very complicated emotional issues to be addressed. And we've already hit one of them straight away, a not uncommon situation where prenatal diagnosis involves termination of pregnancy, and people might not want to go ahead with that. And especially if the couple disagree, that can be an obvious source of major problems in the future.